another interesting one. The last Friday night game for this week, Florida Atlantic, Michigan State. We've got the Spartans, 13.5-point home favorites, 45.5 the total here in this game. Love, not just like, love the hire of Jonathan Smith. How can you not? Oregon State was in the dumpster, was in the shithole when he took it over. And to see what he did and resurrect that program, he had Oregon State winning double-digit games 2 years ago. It's a remarkable job he did.
He's done it a few times too.
Yeah,
or close
no
to it.
doubt.
Yeah,
They're consistently winning record. Bowl games, 8, 9, 10 wins he was able to get at Oregon State, a program that was, like I said, it was in the toilet when he took it over. What a great coaching job. I have no doubt after the disappointing run of Mel Tucker and some of these other coaches they've had, they really have not found that great coach since Mark D'Antonio was there and led them to the success they had over a decade ago. But you bring in a guy that I believe in to turn around and build a program from the ground up the proper way. All you got to do is exhibit a little bit of patience. And trust me, Jonathan Smith will get the job done for you. The question is, are they going to see the fruits of this coaching hire in year one? I'm not so sure about that. It's, you're playing in a Big Ten that's tougher, deeper, stronger, now top to bottom. It could still be a work in progress this particular season, but long term, it's a great hire. There's no doubt about that. I think when you look at Michigan State this year, obviously starting quarterback last year gone, but he brings in one of his quarterbacks from Oregon State, Aiden Childs. And from all indications, he's been not just good, he's been really good in camp. Spring camp and fall camp, he's lit it up. He's looked good. He's been in command of the offense. There's rave reviews going on at East Lansing for the play of Aiden Childs here in camp, and it'll be interesting to see if he can take off immediately here this first game against Florida Atlantic. But they like it. Early returns are positive here for him. Their top receiver, Montori Foster, it looks like he's back as well. They bring in Jack Velling, great tight end at Oregon State. Jonathan Smith brings him over. So a few Oregon State familiar faces have come with Jonathan Smith here to Michigan State for this season. One concern, though, for Michigan State is only one starter back on the O-line. You do get concerned about that. Defense wasn't very good last year. A lot of transfers are expected to start on the defense. I'm telling you what, when you're trying to project how a team is going to play on one side of the football, and it's nothing but transfers, or majority of the starters are projected to be transfers, that's like, you got to do some projecting. You got to do some, gut feel, okay, I think this is how they're going to look, because nobody knows for sure. You don't know if you're going to hit on all these transfers. If you're Jonathan Smith on defense with so many new faces and projected starters expected to be transfer portal players, you just got to some deduction, if you will, and just try to do some projecting as to what you think they'll play like out of the gate. So the defense is still a question mark here. Florida Atlantic, look, when you look at Tom Herman, this is a guy that's had success elsewhere, but, definitely not the season they hoped for at Florida Atlantic last year. They are concerned. I am concerned a little bit about just the ability to recruit here. I don't think he's done as good of a job as I would have expected, bringing in the talent here. Cam Fancher is going to be the new quarterback, the transfer from Marshall. It's decent, but, as many interceptions last year as touchdowns is not great. You don't love seeing that. From Cam Fancher last year. Starting over at running back, all three top receivers last year are gone. They do bring in a couple of solid transfers, but there's some turnover there at the wide receiver spot. They have just one starting O-lineman back, 6 starters on defense. The defense actually didn't play that bad. I thought it was the offense, believe it or not, that kind of underachieved last year for Tom Herman and Florida Atlantic. So they're a big unknown. I know long-term Tom Herman is an underdog, but if you actually look at his tenure at Florida Atlantic so far, the Tom Herman is an underdog. I don't know. It's not been going as well for the Tom Herman as an underdog people like it did when he was at Texas and when he was at Houston, where it was automatic. When Tom Herman is catching points, you bet Tom Herman's team. Hasn't been quite that way here at Florida Atlantic. I find it fucking hilarious, C-Mac. Aiden Childs goes viral last week on social media for that comment. He said they asked him about how the offense looks, and he says, if you're a betting man, bet the over. And I think basically in the 48 hours after he said that shit, people are hammering the under because this total's gone down. So they're fading his opinion on his own team and his own offense, Aiden Childs, with that quote last week saying bet the over on our offense. But it's just a very interesting game. I'll be honest, I'm not ready to lay this many with Michigan State, and I know Childs has looked great. But I think there's value shifting to FAU. There's value shifting to the over a little bit. I'd lean in those directions. Do I love either one, though? Either position? No. It's just lukewarm opinions here. C-Mac, what do you think? FAU, Michigan State.
Man, Michigan State here. This is a big number, but I do love the hire with John Smith. It was a little bit – I was a tad bit shocked that he'd want to go there. I mean, I know everything that's there. I just thought he could in anything. And, of course, he's had other offers and stuff throughout the years, the last 10 or so years. For him to jump to Michigan State, I thought was a little crazy. He brings trials with him, which is good. Spartans offensive line, yeah, it needs to be better. That was a bad part of what they had for them. I think the defense is all right. They bring back a few guys, Hall, Gross, their cornerback's all right. I'm not laying 14 with them, though. This is why. On the FAU side, you mentioned it. FAU just can't win on the road. You talk about as a dog. Herman there, before that, they just get their ass kicked on the road. It's just a fact. They've been a lot better as a dog at home. And we can get there. Cam Fancher, I've seen enough from him for Marshall. Like you hit on there. He had 2,000 yards last year, 11 and 11 T's, 11 picks.
I think top 25 he was last year in turnover-worthy plays, which has become a big-time darling analytical statistic that a lot of bettors use now. Turnover-worthy plays for a quarterback, and I think Cam Fancher had a bunch of them last year.
Yeah. Oh, I love looking at that. Turnovers in general is one of my favorite. We'll hit a bunch.
And that's a great stat because it's just how many throws do you make that it should have been should have been a turnover and could have been a turnover.
Yeah.
Maybe it's dropped or something happens, but it was so close to being intercepted. That's the beauty of that stat. It doesn't just measure interceptions, but how many times did you throw the ball and it could have been and it should have been intercepted. That's what's great about the turnover-worthy play statistic.
Yeah, but the rest of the offense, they lost a bunch of their skilled positions. They got these transfers. Defense, you mentioned the 6. Jackson Ambush is pretty good, comes back. He had 90 tackles. But, man, I don't know how good this defense will be. I think they win maybe 4 games, FAU again. I'm not ready to move on them here. And I don't want to lay it. Michigan State's taking all the money here. Mine's moved. It's moved up, crept up a little bit. It's just a lot of love for Michigan State. This is one, if it keeps going, do we see buyback? These are the ones I love to see, but then we're all early in the week. And week 1, we've seen it for weeks because it's leading up. Usually we just get a week when we do Monday. You know what I mean? We'll see that early until up to the week. But we've had a few weeks with betting with this. So do we get anything later on in the week if this gets a little high?
There you go. So there's the weeknight action, the weeknight card.